Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on from where are you watching us. It's my honor to warmly welcome you at the side event dedicated to the second voluntary national review of the Czech Republic, which is organized here at the margins of HLPF, at least in virtual form. My name is Jan Mareš, and I'm head of a Sustainable Development Unit at the Ministry of the Environment, and I will be the host. For the following hour and a half. I'm really glad that so many of you are interested in this in-depth discussion about sustainable development of the Czech Republic and its perspectives, especially when the huge number of other side events is taking place at HLPF right now. I believe this is also thanks to our distinguished guests, Professor Jeffrey Sachs. We were really delighted that Mr. Sachs accepted our invitation, and we were really looking forward to his openings remarks. Unfortunately, Mr. Sachs, in the end, cannot personally participate due to some personal and unexpected issues. But fortunately, he sent us his pre-recorded speech. So, through this forum, Mr. Sachs will remain the keynote speaker, and we will not miss an opportunity to hear about his insights into our VNR. After his presentation, which will shed light on the Czech VNR from the global perspective, a panel discussion with 4 guests will follow. The discussion will be structured around 4 main topics: the outcomes of the Czech VNR, emerging challenges not only in the Czech Republic but also in the Europe, and communication with public, and also with activities of the Czech Republic in the external dimensions and abroad. And first of all, I would like to briefly introduce our guests. The first one is Mrs. Anna Pasková, the director of the Department of Environmental Policy and Sustainable Development at the Ministry of Environment. Our second guest is Mr. Alexander Sporíš, the director of Department of Multilateral Economic Relations from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They are both going to present the efforts made by public administration to fulfill SDGs. And I'm also pleased to introduce their counterparts, Mr. Jan Lukačevič and Ms. Karolina Lískovcová, who will offer a different perspective, a perspective which goes from civil society. Jan Lukačevič is a space engineer, scientist, and one of the 14 young people from around the world who was chosen by NATO to become one of the so-called young leaders. Congratulations. And last but not least, Karolina Lískovcová is a youth representative and represented the Czech Republic at numerous conferences globally, and was an ambassador of the EU youth delegation in the Czech Republic. All the panelists are also the members of the Czech delegation at the HLPF. And thank you for your participation today. And before we start our side event, I would like to ask you to follow some ground rules. Please mute your microphones, but leave your cameras on, so that side event will be not so anonymous, and we can at least partially simulate the atmosphere of the meeting in one of the rooms in New York. And if you would like to ask a question to the panelists, please you can use a Slido application, www.sly.do, and please enter a code which you can see at the screen right now. This is the word sustainability, and then you can join this side event, at least in electronic way. So this was the brief introduction from my side, and it's my pleasure to hand over to Professor Sachs, at least in a virtual way.
Ahoy. I'm Jeffrey Sachs, a university professor at Columbia University and president of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. I'm very honored to be joining you in this important session on the Czech Republic and the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm unfortunately not able to be closer to you than coming in by video from Athens, where I'm in a conference on sustainable development, so thinking a lot about these problems and, of course, always thinking a lot about the Czech Republic. The UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, which I am very honored to lead on behalf of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, produces each year a Sustainable Development Report, which analyzes the main challenges that the world faces and does a ranking. And in the 2021 report, which we released just a few weeks ago, the Czech Republic ranked 12th in the world out of 165 countries in progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. That's pretty good. I give you congratulations. Last year in 2020, the ranking was 8th out of 165. So apparently there's been a little slippage in relative terms. But the fact of the matter is the Czech Republic is, of course, doing overall a very, very good job on many of the key dimensions of sustainable development. Poverty is low, hunger basically is non-existent, though like every place there's a battle of the waistline and some obesity and unhealthful diet. Healthcare coverage is good and health outcomes generally good. Of course, the Czech Republic, like so many countries around the world, has been very hard hit by COVID, though thanks God the rates seem to be coming down sharply just now, thanks goodness. On many of the dimensions, therefore, of sustainable development, the Czech Republic scores a green light as we give the street lamp ratings, and Czech Republic looks good on many, many dimensions. Also, though there are inequalities of income and wealth in the Czech Republic, as in all countries of the world, inequality is on the relatively low side, not the lowest in the world. That prize goes to the Nordic countries, but according to the standard measures of income inequality, the Czech Republic is not a hugely unequal society as, say, my own is in the United States. I think it's no secret where the major challenge for the Czech Republic comes in sustainable development, and that is on the green future. Because like the neighborhood of Central Europe, the Czech Republic industrialized on the basis of fossil fuels, a lot of coal, a lot of polluting industry, and the path, therefore, to a net zero carbon economy remains a major challenge, a major social and economic challenge, and a major political challenge as well, because there's an ongoing debate about the role of nuclear energy, the role, if any, in the interim of natural gas, and really still, I think, a lot of resistance to the realities of the European Green Deal and the need for the whole world to decarbonize by 2050. In political circles in the Czech Republic, for many years, climate change was denigrated as a risk even denied by some leading politicians. And I'd say it's true to characterize Central Europe as not a very enthusiastic part of the world on this agenda, whether it's Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland, Hungary. This is not a challenge that the countries of Central Europe have wanted to take on. But let me say that it's a big deal, and it's extremely important that the Czech Republic not only have a strategy to reach zero, and a strategy that is congenial with the neighborhood, but a role of leadership in the technologies of the future. The Czech Republic's position near the top of the world in sustainable development depends fundamentally on a clean, green, digital economy of the future, a place where it is a pleasure to live, work, visit, and innovate. And we love the Czech Republic for all of those reasons. And I want to see the Czech Republic in the forefront of the new technologies of clean industry, electric vehicles, because the Czech Republic has such an important role to play in the global automotive supply chain, and with Germany and the neighborhood, of course. We're going to be driving electric vehicles in the future. The Czech Republic has so much depth and talent of technical skills in engineering, in computer science, in smart systems, in machine learning, and in other cutting-edge technologies. This is where the future really lies, and this is how the Czech Republic will continue to be one of the richest and I think fairest and most beautiful places in the world in the future. So this is what our report basically says. Quite good on many, many dimensions of sustainable development, but not on energy. There is not yet the coherent, forward-looking, dynamic strategy for the Czech Republic to be in the forefront of green energy, zero carbon energy production, electric vehicles, hydrogen economy, which will definitely play an important role in industry, and smart systems built on new 5G technologies and machine learning and other AI-empowered technologies, where the Czech Republic is going to need that to be in a globally competitive position. When I think about the Czech Republic, absolutely cities that have proven to be sustainable for a millennium or more, some of the most beautiful places on the planet. I personally think that sustainable development is in the core of the Czech countryside and the Czech ethos, and in the basic core of the Czech economy of the future. So I want to see the Czech Republic not only go back to 8 on the list, but continue to climb towards the very top of the world. And that will be achieved by viewing the green and the digital transformations in a positive way, not in a foot-dragging way, to see Czech industry be leaders in the green, clean transformation, to see the great universities, Charles University and the other great universities of the Czech Republic be innovation leaders in this area. And I should add, to ensure that education quality is felt throughout the society from the youngest years onward. And here is one more point that I think our study and related studies like the OECD's PISA rankings point out. There's room for progress on science, math, and reading skills of young people in the Czech Republic. That's always been the core of Bohemia's success and the Czech Republic's success is the human skills, the human knowledge, the capital, the technologies that have come from that, the leading industries that have been developed on the basis of these cutting-edge technologies. So please go for it. I hope you'll invite me back next year when the rankings put the Czech Republic even higher on the list and then higher on the list. I'm confident of that. I hope that next year when we report on the rankings and we see the progress being made, that we can be together in person in a post-pandemic world and in a European context where Europe is moving decisively to implement the European Green Deal, and in that context where the Czech Republic is a great leader of Europe in that quest. Thank you so much for inviting me. All best wishes on this special session, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
So, many thanks to Professor Sachs for his speech, which was, as usual, full of provocative thoughts and bright insights. In his opening remarks, we can hear not only appreciation of the progress of the Czech Republic, but also a constructive criticism, as well as kind of hope, which is very encouraging and was very supportive in these rough times when we are forming or trying to form the new post-pandemic world. As one of the persons who was responsible for preparation of the second Czech VNR, I would like to shortly comment on his speech and say just a few basic and introductory words about our VNR report. The report is based on the comprehensive national report of implementing 2030 agenda, which was adopted by the Czech government in January this year. It combines all accessible data. It means 107 indicators from global set with activity report. The results are quite satisfying, but many challenges remains, as Jeffrey Sachs just pointed out. In general, the Czech Republic made significant progress in the last 5 years in 8 SDGs, and in other 8 SDGs, the progress can be considered as moderate, and just only in one SDG we are lagging behind, and no progress can be proved, and it's SDG 5, gender equality, unfortunately. So, I think that in addition to this introduction from Jeffrey and my side, I would like to open the floor and ask the first question. And because the VNR gives us an opportunity to look back at the process of SDGs implementation and reflect it. So my first question is like very, very broad and general. And I would like to know how our panelists assess the implementation of the SDGs, and what are, according to you, the most important goals in terms to transition to sustainability, and how was our achieving of SDGs influenced by COVID pandemic. And I would like to start with Anna Paskova, so the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jan, and good afternoon. Well, first today, let me talk briefly why we are doing satisfactory and what were the enablers. The enablers were that we experienced long-term and dynamic economic growth and low unemployment rate. And also, as a Czech Republic, we have a robust social system and functional legal state. On the other hand, long-term weaknesses persist, which can be counted as insufficient ex-ante assessments, still remaining silos approach, dependence on traditional industry, and also low percentage of innovative sectors. And speaking of COVID-19, we see that those long-term deficiencies, for example, also in the availability and funding of social services, and also the exclusion of vulnerable individuals, only deepened these weaknesses. So for the future, we know that the impact of COVID on social system and healthcare system and state budget will be tremendous, and the current success will be questioned. But going back to the first question, what are the key challenges? Well, I think the most pressing issue, talking about sustainability, is how we are able to deal with climate action, because how we are successful or not will shape our future. When we look at our assessment, we have to admit, and Professor Sachs put it right, even though we decreased our greenhouse gases since 1990, we still remains economy with high intensity, even though it's decreasing over time, but still we are remain one of the highest in the EU. We also have to see that we are losing our carbon sinks because of the bark beetle calamity. So also the sector LULUCF is not like working. We lost almost all of our carbon sinks, and the forestry became not a carbon sink but carbon emitter. Also, we have to see that we are not doing well in transport. We need to decrease our emissions from transport and shift to clean mobility. The decarbonization has to be economic and technologic. I have to say that the Czech Republic has started its path, and it's determined to stick to its EU and global-wide obligations. And also the coal phase out is seen or expected at the latest at 2038. Also, we have to focus on adaptation. We do have strategies, but we have to see what's happening in our landscape, that we have experiences, long-term drought, that we are experiencing extreme weather events with very big intensity. And that we really have to change management of our landscape and restore our ecosystems and its resilience. Also, it will be important to go on the path of circular economy, which is SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. We need to create market for secondary materials and decrease the material intensity of our economy. So from my side, those SDGs will be decisive for the future of the Czech society in coming years.
So many thanks, Anna, for the first reply, and now I would like to give a floor to Mr. Sporiš, and we are eager to know what you are thinking about the major challenges of the Czech Republic.
Thank you, Jan, for giving the floor. Hello, everybody. I represent here in this panel the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so I will be talking maybe mostly about our foreign policy and responsibilities of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the aspect of sustainable development. We strongly believe that foreign policy plays a crucial role in achieving the Agenda 2030. The activities of the Czech Ministry of Foreign Affairs reflect this reality, ranging from active participation in international organizations, productive bilateral cooperation, efficient humanitarian assistance to innovative transition promotion programs. Efficient multilateralism is one of the main Czech foreign policy priorities in the international arena, since we believe that multilateralism is indispensable in the face of the current and future global challenges. We are fully convinced that implementing and upholding international norms and agreements and strengthening cooperation and partnership is essential for the achievement of the 2030 Agenda and its all 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Our engagement in the international domain is anchored in the concept of Czech foreign policy. This document states our three main global goals, one of which is prosperity and sustainable development. Through our foreign policy, we aspire to contribute to rising global prosperity and worldwide security, with special emphasis on the SDG 16, which was our priority during the Czech Republic's presidency of the United Nations Economic Council in 2018. Through our foreign policy and using all our instruments, I must say that the COVID-19 pandemic has brought many new challenges in the field of human rights. Due to a serious worsening of the civil society situation in many countries, civil society actors worldwide need our support more than ever before. Since we strongly believe that SDG 16, this SDG is concerning peace, justice, and strong institutions, is a crucial prerequisite for fulfilling the other 16 SDGs constituting the 2030 Agenda. We devote a lot of our attention and funding to projects in the field of transformation cooperation. Having experienced social transition and democratization ourselves, we want to use our experience and help other countries going through this process. We have been supporting civil society, freedom of speech, equal and full political and public participation, and protection of human rights in 11 priority countries: Moldova, Ukraine, Belarus, Georgia, Armenia, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Myanmar, Cuba, and Vietnam. Our transition promotion program is the main tool of the Czech Ministry of Foreign Affairs in advancing democracy and human rights. In its budget this year was 70 million Czech crowns. Additional special means are dedicated to the support of democratic transition of Ukraine. The Czech Transition Promotion Program has been successfully operating for 16 years already, and even the COVID-19 pandemic has not stopped us from reaching out to civil society actors and supporting them through new innovative ways. I would also like to say a couple of words of our humanitarian assistance, which is sort of separate from the development assistance. And here we focus on enhancing preparedness and resilience through risk reduction and risk management according to Sendai framework. Our previous experience prepared us to become an active actor in the COVID-19 response right from the beginning. You can see I'm talking very much about COVID-19, but we see it as during our era now as one of major threats, and the diseases are coming through all the globe, and you see it, how it's a negative impact on the global development, and so in particular, and of course in sustainable development. So our previous experience prepared us to become an active actor in the COVID-19 response right from the beginning, focusing on a broader health response, together with broader socio-economic assistance, in particular for displaced and other vulnerable groups. We have been engaged in the Team Europe initiatives in Ethiopia, Zambia, and Sahel, focusing on post-COVID recovery, while contributing to COVAX facilities through UNICEF to advance the access to the vaccines for developing countries. So for the beginning, it would be probably my comments and my introduction for the challenges ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much for pointing out the broad scope of challenges that we are that we have been facing, are still facing, and I think that our national sustainability implementation was since very beginning in the year 2015 based on public discussion, participation, and this is also the reason why the Czech VNR or the part of the Czech VNR is also or are also the representatives of academia and JAWS and also municipal governments, which are not present today. And I think that it's really important to have a mirror for our efforts. So I would like to open the floor for Karolina Liskovcová and to hear how the JAWS or active JAWS does view the challenges and the outcomes of the Czech Republic in the field of sustainable development. So the floor is yours, Karolina.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. First of all, in reaction to what Mr. Sachs was saying, I think when you live in Czechia and you see this report and you see Mr. Sachs, you're asking yourself, how is that even possible? Like, how can we be so successful, actually? And my answer to that would actually be, it's mediocrity. We have contented ourselves with mediocrity. We kind of know what to do now. We don't aspire to get better. We left the innovation and the power overall to the old structures, and we are comfortable with our problems. We don't aspire to get new ones in the world, and basically we are afraid of the outside world, which has to change. But to begin and to return to the COVID-19 pandemic and overall situation regarding sustainability in Czechia, I think a very important aspect is precisely this division of power, this inclusion of others than only middle-aged white men, let's say. So to begin with, gender equality index actually in the European Union has placed us on the 23rd out of 27 places. And as Jan reminded us in the beginning, SDG 5 is precisely the one that we haven't had any progress so far, or in very long time, even maybe regression even, and power and the women in power overall was basically the weakest point that we could have seen there. And of course we say even in the report that institutionally, legally, we have all the same rights. But there is a difference between equality and equity. Obviously, it's basically an excuse. You allow access, but then don't get rid of the barriers that actually prevent certain groups or even 50% of the population to actually access power as it should be and to fulfill democratic principles. And we see that with the gender gap. We see that with the number of women in leadership positions. But not only, we see that with minorities as well, especially when you're a young woman from minority, your life in Czechia would be very, very difficult, or even migrant one, which is totally another topic, of course. And then, of course, I'm here as a representative of young people, and that's something that I want to really emphasize during COVID-19. nobody was asking young people what they want, what they need. Everybody was thinking about, oh, you cannot go to school, but yeah, but we also have other needs. We also have our lives to live, and health, and friends, and I think this intergenerational dialogue was really missing, and we ought to want this seat at the table. We need to support engagement of young people in public life, upscale education in the way that young people will get this necessary skill set and mindset to want to be engaged in public life. We need to behave in the way that young people will want to cooperate with us and work with us, and that is linked to the problem of listening. Sometimes, again, as with equality or equity, you give the floor, but you're not listening. And I think, and then acting on what you heard, because, well, it's just the young people and experienced people talking. But yes, older generations, professionals have the experience, of course, but we need to combine it with the fresh views and perspective of the youth. And I think Fridays for the Future, for instance, is a really great example of that. But then we needed young people to go out of schools so that we actually listen to them. And that, I think, is alarming. And even in Czech society, we saw people making fun of young people going to the streets. But yeah, I think it kind of shows the level of participation that we are allowed. And I think last point is that it gives us the responsibility. It teaches us responsibility to actually be in the middle of things, to be heard, and to discuss with other leaders, because we respect them, we even fear them. Will you listen to me? Will you actually respect what I'm saying? And we need the leaders to come up also to us and to kind of, encourage and empower young people, because that's where the sustainable future for our nation lies. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina, for your insightful contribution. And I think that it reminds us that the sustainability isn't just data, and we cannot find sustainability just in reports, but it's also very important is also the personal experience, because then we can share our experiences about the barriers which we are the barriers we have to cope with. And I think that also your notion that not everyone that everyone can speak, but there is no right to be heard, is very important and is crucial in times of social media, because it's like more general problem. And so it would be nice to hear a few words from Jan Lukačević, who as a space engineer is used to think outside the box. So the floor is yours.
Thank you for a word. Now that the Czech Republic got a proper scolding, I'm going to talk about something slightly different, nonetheless important, and that's the transformation part of your question. When you ask about the implementation of SDGs and to what extent it was affected by the COVID pandemic, I personally think it was affected massively, mostly because we just had different things to focus on. There was different priorities for a year and a half. But what it also shown us is how important science and scientific research is in finding solutions to go, let's say, in more sustainable way and in solving the crisis we're facing. I think it was a prime example when you focus on something a lot and give it a proper spotlight, humanity is able to achieve really great things. So when it comes to transformation towards sustainability, it's really about giving more floor to science, making a stronger emphasis to scientific research, and increasing the budgets, and try to take let's say, more innovative approach. It is obvious that it's not going to be a cheap thing. So we need to think about ways how we can fund scientific research in coming years, and perhaps finding some sort of partnerships with private sector. So one of the great ways how to achieve this could be using a private capital, because what we can see in the past couple of years is also a transition on a financial market, which is sort of giving us hope, because we can see that there's a slight transformation in thinking about investments, and it's no longer about return on investment. It's also about environmental and societal impact. So one of the great ways could be for Czech Republic to open up and create conditions that will allow private capital to be more effective in scientific research, and sort of pave way for future that will not only use the elementary research and applied research funded by the state only, but also perhaps with private capital and utilizing structures and vehicles such as venture capital impact funds.
Okay, Jan, many thanks for your answer, and I think that we touched a very important or two important topics, and this is maybe a little bit conflict between democracy and human rights, and the technological progress, and like the getting the bigger role of science. So I think that this is like a really big challenge for us of all, and I think that and it leads to me to like a more specific question, and because I'm of the opinion that we shouldn't be heading to the situation we should be heading to the situation in which no sustainability departments, no government councils on sustainable development will be needed, and the sustainability won't be a specialized agenda, but rather it will be deeply rooted in our everyday behavior patterns, in our daily agenda. And definitely it is a way, this is a long way to go for everyone, and but I think that it would be nice to stop at this question and to talk more about your opinions on sustainability mainstreaming here in the Czech Republic. What are the ways? Is it democratizing of agenda, or like more scientific evidence approached, or some combination of them, or maybe something completely other? So the floor is yours. You can start, Anna, please.
Okay, I will take the word. Indeed, Jan, I think we are striving for a system where no sustainable department will be needed. But so far, we are in the stage where we are mainstreaming sustainability through our vision, which is the Czech Republic 2030. We do have a good network of focal points who tries to create a network with no silos that are able to coordinate to reach policy coherence, which is very needed. Also, mainstreaming sustainability means participation with all groups, including youth, including scientists, and doing and making political decisions based on science. Also, what I would like to mention is that we already started mainstreaming sustainability through a public procurement, because since this year and update of Public Procurement Act was adopted, and it requires that all public contracts will be awarded in a way that it's environmental, social, responsible, and even is using innovative ways and innovative technology if it's possible. So for me personally, it's a breakthrough, and because public procurement makes 10% of Czech GDP, so it's not a small piece. And combined with the agenda of sustainable finance, which Jan Lukačević also mentioned, it creates the financing pool and hope that a sustainable solution will be much more financed. Also, what I would like to mention when we are talking about systemic approach is that we are focusing on ex-ante assessments through regulatory impact assessment, which is deeply rooted in the Czech Republic system, and we will be soon finalizing manual how to extend a little bit the regulatory impact assessment into sustainability impact assessment. So we are putting sustainability perspective in this systematic approach. So that would be from me.
So thank you, Anna, for your answer. And I would like to ask if anyone would like to add something or comment on what Anna said. So, Mr. Sporiš, do you want to react?
I would probably also, not only what Anna said and other speakers are saying, it's that the issue of conflicts. You know, we are, I think, since the mankind was created, we are living in permanent conflict. It's a generation conflict. It's a conflict between nations, between states were created, conflict between the states. And here I would like to raise the important role of diplomacy and of dialogue. And our case is dialogue among the states. I tried in my introduction to say how important multilateralism is, how important is that the state representatives are talking about important issues. And this happened in 2015, and we have Agenda 2030. And it's a let's say consensual agenda with 17 consensual goals. Our ministry and diplomacy and Czech diplomacy is involved in all fulfillment of the 17 goals, and we try to contribute, and we I think do that through let's say our channels abroad, through our embassies, but also domestically with our partners within other ministries, and also with the youth, you know, with young generation. Trying to talk about the new, I don't want to say modern subjects like climate change and other things, which are definitely part of the sustainable development. And all this is very important, you know, and here I would like to really underline the important role of diplomacy for a peaceful solution of these conflicts, of promoting dialogue among the states, on trying to find solutions, these subjects, these Czech solutions for sustainable development. We would like also to promote the global solutions, to promote the way how the world should approach, and we have the Agenda 2030, and definitely after 2030 there will be new agenda, 2050, maybe others. And the diplomacy is here to serve the people of the globe, to promote the dialogue among the nations, to try to find even the legal basis like Paris Agreement and other agreements which were agreed, signed, and promoted in international legislation, and after that fulfilled. And that's the role of diplomats, that's the role of all of us, and just don't want to see conflicts that as sometimes as a negative word. Sometimes the conflict, and it was mentioned here, the generation conflict, is very positive one, because it's waking up, maybe, it's showing the new trends to all the generation, to put us together, and while through dialogue, I think, and not only on the international level, domestic level, in the families, among different ethnicities, religions, and all this, it's the way how to find a solution. So here I come back to the let's say title of our debate, which is Czech solutions for sustainable development.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have heard two different contributions. One was The first one mentioned like the concrete measures, the concrete steps to sustainability. The second one was more philosophical, and I'm interested if Carolina or Jan can see some progress in daily mainstreaming of sustainability, or changing in awareness of the population, of your colleagues, of your parents. If you can, or so, I would like to open the floor for you now.
Thank you. So I will just briefly react that I certainly agree with Director Sporiš that dialogue is the most important. That's why I'm representing here actually the youth dialogue, the European youth dialogue. And the problem is that dialogue cannot be one-sided. It needs the other side to also engage with us, and so I am hoping that it will certainly improve. It is improving, but we definitely need more policymakers, even more diplomats, to engage in that way with young people. And concerning the mainstreaming of sustainability and the points that you mentioned, Jan, first of all, I think that there is sort of mainstreaming among young generation of sustainability overall, maybe not as sustainability as such, maybe it is more linked to climate change, and I was mentioning Fridays for the Future, etc., or to environmental changes, etc. And I think it's becoming kind of cool to think sustainably, and I think that's a really great way to forward, because again, then young people engage in everyday life in dialogue with their parents, for instance, with their close we But what was interesting for me in these dialogues, or in this when we were discussing that with young people, there are two concerns. Even when they actually want to imply it in everyday lives, sometimes they might not have the means. For example, there were the mention of menstrual products, as young women actually would like to buy something more sustainable, let's say, but need to comfort themselves with cheap pads because that's what's accessible for them. And then it is on them only to talk to their parents and to explain why they would like this. And sometimes, mom, it's more sustainable, or simply doesn't work as a reason. So definitely it needs to be much larger social change. And then I would say there is also this frustration that even though you see the mainstreaming, you hear about it even in schools, because it's becoming as a part, and I think that's really great, as a part of the education strategy 2030 plus that the Ministry of Education also approved recently. Then you might start behave sustainably and not use plastics excessively, but then you're frustrated again because there are the governments that might not be reacting well, and there are the big corporations. So when you hear that 3% of global emissions are actually responsibility of just one firm, then you just feel like, again, you need this space and you need this inclusion into participatory platforms, so you can make your voice heard, that you don't want that, and you would prefer to everyone to engage in that process.
Okay, thank you, Carolina, for your contribution, and microphone is at Jan, so you may speak now.
I'll try to be the concise one here. So I see I see many aspects to this question, but I'll mention just two. One aspect is, let's say, on a political level of sustainable mainstreaming, and I see we're not quite there yet, because for example, climate change and sustainability is still a political topic. There are parties that are even against policies that will lead us to sustainability, and it shouldn't really be the thing. This should be the cornerstone that politics or politicians all agree on and focus on completely different areas. Like this is a real thing. There are data for that. It shouldn't be up for a debate that there are changes going on and we have to adjust to them and perhaps tackle back. The other aspect is how the general population sees it. And while I agree with Carolina that young people are a lot more open to think about these things and they even perceive it as something cool, I think the general populace isn't quite there yet as well. One of the great examples could be that there were huge lines of people when a new Primark opened in Prague. And that's a very fine example how people are still not familiar with globalized supply chains, that SDGs are still a long way from being something very familiar to each one of us here amongst all social groups. So those are just two critical remarks from my side that we still have something to work on. So even the people standing in a line are at least aware of the issues related to buying cheap fashion or fast fashion, as they say, and other environmental issues.
Okay. Does anybody want to react? Yes. So Jana, the floor is yours.
If I may react what Jan just said, indeed, well, the public opinion or what the poll teach us, it's like that half of the Czech population knows what SDGs are. But and it's getting better when we are talking with the young generation. But then it's similar to environmental problems or climate change problems. People are concerning it as a big issue, but not many of them are considering it as their own issue, and they are not that willing to take their step towards acting, especially when it has economic connotations. But talking about this fast fashion chain, from my perspective, it was great to see the discussion in the public, because also in the news there were reactions that we have to do something about the fast fashion, and that we have to think about slowing down the fashion. So for me, the development is going in the right direction, because the notion in the society of the impact is getting better. It's not great, but it's getting better. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, so Carolina, you may
Can
speak.
I just very quickly, I totally agree, but I think that your point is actually complementing the one that I was saying with the costs. That maybe fast fashion for young girls that want to, look good and everything might be attractive because, that you can change the garderobe. And then, of course, it's obviously not the right way forward, but exactly as we heard now, that is the space that opens up for maybe young people also to hear about this and to maybe try to buy more sustainable and more durable products as well.
If I may add just one broader thing, it's about the spillover effects. Because and it's also in the SDSN assessment where the Czech Republic is on the 12th place. It's important to see what impact our daily life and our economics makes on other countries, because most of the countries in the first 10 have major spillover effects on other countries. So for the future assessments, it is also necessary to see what we are creating abroad with our lifestyles.
Yeah, thank you very much for this fruitful discussion. I think that that it reminds us that the nature of SDGs is really inseparable, and the SDGs are very much interrelated, because now we could discuss more about about the issue of poverty in the Czech Republic, because of every 10th household is affected by this treatment. But I think so it's not just about our awareness of population, but also about material conditions, I would say. But it's maybe a little bit inappropriate comments from my role just now. And so now I would like to move to another question, which is let's say maybe more abstract. And I would like to start with that I must admit that in my leisure time I like to escape in the world of fiction, and occasionally some thoughts just won't let me sleep. This happened to me with a quote from Milan Kundera's novel Immortality, where he wrote, I quote, "To be absolutely modern is to be the ally of one's gravediggers." I understand these words as a warning that the time is running really fast, and all our thoughts and beliefs, as well as strategies and measures, are becoming quickly outdated. We should be aware that preserving the current state of things is relative, since the world is changing really fast, and we have to face new challenges. So my question is, what should we do to stay absolutely modern in Kundera terms? In other words, what should we focus on in a medium term that new challenges don't catch us off guard? So what are like the black swans at the horizon, which we maybe see, maybe not? So who would like to start? So, Jan, the floor is yours.
I can open up for sure. When you talk about new challenges and unknown unknowns, I think there's one really big change that a lot of people haven't really noticed. And perhaps that's mainly because our systems are not as fast and not as rapidly adapting to what's happening outside. What I'm talking about is how technological development completely changed sides on who's perpetrating it. Because historically, it was national or international organizations leading it. And in my work for NATO, we have focused a lot on what has been happening, for example, in military research. And you may know some of the products of military research. You use it on a daily basis. It's GPS, it's internet, and so forth. And these particle technologies were created on demand. It was a group of scientists selected to develop this particle solution. But the innovation landscape changed rapidly, and now it's the other way around. It's the private sector and it's the academia developing new solutions. And our new and very big challenge is sort of adjust to that and perhaps help our political leadership to change mindset when it comes to the sort of direction of technological development. Because right now we still see very reactive approach, sort of sitting on a spot and waiting what's coming, and sometimes adopting it with very, very big delay. But in order to maintain the technological edge and go really forward, we need to change the approach to be proactive, to have perhaps governmental bodies, agencies or accelerators that are proactively searching for these technologies and perhaps new findings in scientific research and helping them go forward, accelerating them or incubating them in order to bear their fruits as fast as possible, because that's the way how we are going to get the future as sustainable as possible in a lot shorter time frames than we're going to get it if we remain with our classical approach. Let's wait what's going to come and perhaps adapt to that.
Thank you, Jan. And now, Mr. Sporish reaction.
Thank you, Jan, for starting this debate on this subject, because I always thought that the science are ahead of politicians, always, historically. 20 years, 50 years ahead. You are also ahead in terms of creation of the agenda of 2030. In the 90s with the climate change were science first. After that, NGOs, youth and others who woke up the diplomats, who woke up politicians and states. And it was our role to bring it back to home, to our parliament, to adopt the law and to implement the law and to provide the Czech solutions as we are doing today. Science will be also ahead, for example, and this is involvement of diplomats in the Dubai Expo 2020, which will start now in 21. There will be great in the Czech pavilion. We will have science. We will have people who will introduce this saver. It's a machine which is producing water from the air, for example. This is typical science project, which might have economic or other, let's say, use in the future and will contribute. Also, it's promoted by politicians, by diplomats, because we bring it to the Expo. I'm not saying Expo is a political, but it's our states who have pavilions. Pavilions are paid from the budget. In this case, it's from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We will have a commissioner. And I'm saying it also because I was in the start point of this Expo. I served as ambassador of Czech Republic to the United Arab Emirates at the time. And it's not, let's say, a secret, or it's very well known that the main topic is sustainability. So we are putting this subject into economy, into our foreign policy. It's almost everywhere now. And it's also in the other projects which we are implementing in our ministry. It's our development projects, development assistance, the creation of 7 countries. I mean, the list where we do or we provide development assistance and other things. So it's also in the education area and etc. So I want to be short because I know our time is not so big to talk about it, but I would very much like to thank scientists and non-governmental organizations who were always, let's say, avant-garde in this process, and they will be, and we are listening to you, and we will try to implement it in the politics, in the foreign policy, and in domestic legislation, and after that fulfill our commitments.
Thank you. So, and now over to Anna.
Okay, I will react a little bit on the black swans that we should be anticipating. I think we have to mention that we have to better our foresight system, not forecasting because we don't know much what will come, but foresight system. We are working on it, on development of our technological foresight, so we would be more proactive, and also we are going to develop or better develop our system on weak signals. So we are also able to grasp those weak signal and assess it, whether it will be important and whether we should take advantage of it or prepare for it. The other thing I would like to talk about is not a black swan, but it's the elephant in the room. So the major challenge is the climate action, and I'm sorry for repeating myself, but it's a really pressing question. And so the major challenge for the Czech Republic is how we will go through the decarbonization pathway and how we are able to use the advantages and or tackle the challenges, social, political ones. Even today is the day when the European Commission published the Fit for 55 legislative package, which is a roadmap a proposal for a roadmap that will guide us how we are going to fulfill our national determined commitments to achieve the cut of greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 at 55%. So I think it's a major thing that we do have the proposals and the plan how we are going to reach this goal. And it's even more important that it's coming out before the very important summit, COP26 in Glasgow, because indeed it's important to act as a national state, as a Czech Republic, and we are quite dedicated because it's not the question if and when, but the question is how. And even the political leadership is quite determined on that issue. But it's also important to reach the global goal. It was great to reach the agreement in Paris, but it will be even more important to operationalize the Paris Agreement, especially the Article 6 in Glasgow. So we hope for a strong position of the EU as a global leader on climate, and that other states and the climate diplomacy will be successful and we will reach another global agreement.
Thank you, Anna, and maybe Carolina will add something.
Yeah, I would like to react first of all at the debate around science, or the remarks that we heard from the gentleman. I think that you're absolutely right in everything that we heard, except that I would add that scientific evidence might know a sort of backlash in the society nowadays, which I perceive as a very dangerous thing. And I think that, as Director Sporiš was also saying, that politicians are trying also to engage in science. I think that there is the crucial way forward. I mean, the leaders of this country cannot leave society in chaos and misinformation, and need to identify the trustful sources. For instance, that we saw that very precisely during the COVID-19 crisis, and I think that leads me to another great author actually speaking about our future, and that's Harari, who also speaks about democracy and the threats to it in the future, that actually I cannot sleep because of before I get to sleep, and I'm really thinking about the societal division mainly, because everything that we just said is actually depending on the how society is divided. And I really like the version of David Goodhart, who did a study at the UK Brexit yes or no voters, saying that in the contrary to the like the partisan divide left and right, we are now divided to anywheres and somewheres, and I think that's I really recommend this study, and I think that's a very pertinent way of showing that we are living in our social bubbles, and that's what will threaten also this process of participation, democracy, and of course sustainable future. Because if one part of the population will want to behave in the way that is respectable to our planet, and the other one will not want to or will not understand why, and again we are getting back to the scientific evidence and the responsibility of the leaders to listen to it, especially them, then again we have a big problem, and that is the great challenge of our time as well.
Okay, thank you very much for your insightful answers. And I would like to remind to the audience that you can you can join us as Slido, and you can ask a question to panelists. And there is a few questions, and one of them is whether the time horizon 2030 or 2050 is appropriate time horizon for our projections and foresight activities. So so in other words, how can we extend the future? Is it enough to speak just about next 10 or 30 years, or in what time frame should we think?
Well, if I may react to this question, I think it's appropriate horizon that also like a human brain is able to grasp. I mean, we are able to see the horizon at the end of this century, 2100, but still those are like the projections, and we can see different pathways for the future. So from myself, I think the 2030 horizon is effective because it forces us to act, because there is no time to be hesitant to act. And 2050 is a long-term goal and horizon is also within the time that we are able to imagine how the future may look like, even though we don't know almost anything about the future, but some climatic scenarios give us a good idea how the future will look like.
Yeah, and the second questions from the audience goes to is about the role of data, but not in the climate change, but in social topics. So that means what kind of research, what kind of research do we need in or regarding to the social issues, and or maybe which kind of foresight?
I mean, it's not rocket science, right? And but on a more serious note, you definitely can study how society behaves, and there are various disciplines that allow you to study society in large scale or macroscopic scale when it comes to behavioral economics, or how society behaves when it comes to its opinions, needs, and so forth. So it's all about choosing the right research field, really. And when you get the proper data, then just use it. For example, we have a solid research on rapid rehousing. And instead of using the data in Brno, second largest city in the Czech Republic, they just scrapped it. And there was one very successful project called Housing First. And unfortunately, the municipality council just canceled it, despite all the evidence and all the data collected and all the awards that were given to the project. So my answer to that is just don't do that. I mean, the data is overwhelming, and if you base your opinions and decisions on them, you are less likely to fail in making wrong choices.
Thank you. And now Mr. Sporish.
Thank you. Speaking about data, I have an honor to work with around 50 international organizations, including UN, but one of them is the OECD. Its operations is fully based on data, and data is economic and social. And here I would like to show you, because maybe propaganda for this organization of the Czech Republic, where we are already 25 years members of OECD, but we are talking about data, and this is a data organization. And they have also social programs, development programs, and everything. And if you talk to people from different international organizations, everybody will tell you that data are very important. Very important to make political decisions, very important to make economic decisions, social, in the social sphere and others. So because we live in the era where we are planning, Agenda 2030 is a sort of plan also. We have our goals, it's also a plan. The plan is structured as it is. You see that probably the mankind has maybe more important issues, because the goal number 1 is poverty, a reduction of poverty. Goal number 2 is hunger. So the global world has probably different problems than we have in Czech Republic, and we try to meet the goals and assist. And in goal 17 we have the development assistance, and goal SDG 16 we are contributing to building institutions and democracy and promoting human rights. So everything is also based on data. Data are very important, and that was my point, and that I will probably leave the floor for others.
And the reply of Jan Lukačević led me to another question, and whether we can benefit on social research in terms of awareness raising campaigns, or what should we do, or how should we communicate the sustainable development concept, which is considered to be too broad, too general, too intangible, because I think that many people still think that, or no, they already know that some SDGs exist, but they know just the names. They don't know nothing about like the concrete activities, concrete steps, and maybe it's quite similar to astrophysics. So the floor is yours.
Okay, I'll base my answer, since you started it, I'll base my answer on my work experience as a science communicator, as well as the advisor for NATO 2030 initiative, because we talk a lot there about strategic communication and how to really reproduce difficult topics and global issues to large populations of people with very diverse backgrounds, meaning very diverse educational backgrounds and so forth. And my answer would be to find a very, very fine line on which you go, on which level you go when it comes to size of the issue you're trying to communicate. Because if it's too big, you're going to run into the backyard paradox, meaning as long as it doesn't affect my own backyard, I don't care. And if you go too small and make too many small but very specific issues, people will brush it off their shoulders as something that they don't have to really focus on because somebody else will solve them. It's too small, so it doesn't require my attention or my involvement. So we need to find the very fine level on which we communicate these complex issues. And I would say make it, let's say, local or personalized to the populations across the nations. I think it would be naive to think that you can communicate the very same message across all European or UN nations, because people have different needs and different opportunities across the world. So, I don't mean it in negative way, but for example, communicate climate change as something that will affect a beer production in Czech Republic. And you will see the reaction of Czech population when you tell them, well, there will be no beer, or the beer will be a lot more expensive because of the change of climate. And you will see that they will at least react to that, and they will at least think about this issue, rather than brushing it off their shoulders as something too small or too big to get involved in.
So many thanks, and I see Anna that she would like to something to add.
Yeah, I would like to thank Jan that he mentioned also that the consumption of alcohol is one of the issues that stood up from our voluntary national report. But yeah, it's a interesting example how create attention to these broad topics such as sustainable development or climate change. As a state administration, the Ministry of Environment, we created a platform for commitment for sustainability, which is open for examples from public authorities, also private companies, but even individuals who can take their stance and commit themselves to probably change something in direction to achieve one or couple of SDGs. And for this year, we also decided to enter the social media also with our communication campaign, which will be targeting the Czech population, the Czech citizens, and it will be talking about the circularity, the thing that everyone can do to reduce the waste that they produce, because we don't need only a few people becoming less or zero waste, but we need the whole population decreasing the production of waste. Also, we will be talking about social issues, intergenerational dialogue, the emissions, transport modes, and our health, how it impacts, and the last topic is how we treat our soils and how the food systems are set. Also, what I wanted to mention when it comes to communication, it's what was mentioned, is the education. And it is important to get more of the sustainable topics in the curriculums of primary school. We do have a good environmental education, but still it has to be broadened for all those economic and social issues as well, and the externalities on third countries, which means the education for global development as well.
So, and the last answer from Carolina.
Okay, so just very concise. I totally agree with this kind of divide and conquer strategy. We cannot definitely have one strategy for all, fitting to all. And while the SDGs and the sustainable future that we might achieve actually is necessary to combine achievements in all the sectors within SDGs, I'm sure that when you unite the experts from the one SDG or from these domains, it might have a better impact in the long term. I want to also say something that we stressed at the consultations for the VNR. It's that SDGs are also really great tool for everyone in project design, for everyone in, we mentioned the development cooperation, for instance. So that is also a great use of these guidelines. We can also use them as guidelines, actually, not really like, act upon them, but acting upon them while doing actually a project. So that's really great. And last point for the health relations to it. So I'm been very interested in health policies and health in general. And before COVID, it was really alarming how little we cared about health policies, about our health, and how many people actually took it for granted. And I think that this connection and COVID-19, the pandemic, actually showed us that health is a major part of sustainability. And what I was trying to convey as a message also on some workshops with young people is that we want to live sustainably, that the overall goal and the ultimate goal of that all is our health. So I think once, and especially now, thanks to pandemic, actually, it took a pandemic to occur, actually, to be able to maybe explain people better that these challenges or the sustainability actually is based on and is here to protect our health.
Okay, thank you, Carolina. Many thanks to all our participants. Time dedicated to our side event is slowly coming to an end. I think that we have heard very thorough and exhaustive discussion, which can brightly illuminate not only the achievements but also the challenges which stay before the Czech Republic in terms of sustainability. I would like to thank for our guests for a fruitful discussion and the audience for participation, and thank you for staying with us until the end, and I hope that you will also enjoy the other webinars and other side events which help us to be aware what the sustainable development nowadays is and what we have to struggle with. So many thanks and good evening to everyone.